Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. With all the tornadoes in Dallas yesterday, we're still here. They're all around us, though, I'll tell you something. But it's that time of year. It's spring, and it's the cold and the hot, and they meet, and they get mad, and they have bad stuff. But we're here, and we're grateful that you're here. And we're going to do questions and answers. Your questions are answers. We do this every year, once a year. And it's really fun. It's really fun to see how you're thinking. And my goal is to help. So I love dialogue, though. I mean, I really love dialogue. I really like doing these live because I really like the dialogue. But because of the delay, I know it's hard to have that dialogue because sometimes when you're asking to clarify an answer, it's on down the road. But we'll do the best we can to kind of go back. So what I've done is I've taken the questions and I've categorized them by prep, what you should be thinking about before you start to sew, the design process, I'm going to call it, and then the fitting process, and then the sewing process. Because I think sometimes as sewers, we really do most of that really well, but even if we don't do one really well, sometimes we can get really frustrated and just not like the garment enough to wear it. And so there's a lot that we want to do right, and a lot of it is information we need to have, and some of it's common sense. So we're going to work on both sides of the brain here tonight, and we'll see what we can get done. All right? So this will be fun. I think this will be a lot of fun. We've got you guys are really kind, and you're really smart, and you've asked some good questions. So we're going to get started. When I read, we're going to start with design questions. So when I read the question, know that I'm kind of cutting some out, you guys, so that don't feel like, hey, I ruined your question. I'm just trying to get the gist of it. I think it's called the gist. Anyway, I'm just trying to get the gist. Okay, so I'm going to start with the measurements chart. The question is, I printed out the measurement chart. Are we supposed to put the numbers in of your clothes that you wear or your personal numbers so you can compare? So because for all of our lifetimes we have been told to measure our bust, measure our waist, measure our hip, measure, it's hard for me to come along and say, those measurements don't do a bit of good. You're like, what? I've been measuring all these years and now you tell me not to measure. But we're not wearing our skin, we're wearing clothing, and our clothing is not our skin, and there's no reason for even comparing them. So the measurement chart, we kind of nicknamed it the Brett chart because he snuck it up and put it up one day. I said, no, they can make their own charts. But anyway, he put it up, and we're very glad he did, actually. We call it the Brett chart, the measurement chart. Those numbers on that chart should be the clothes you are wearing. It is completely non-important what you physically measure. And I kind of hate to tell you that because so many of you are like, no, that can't be true, that you stop listening to everything else I say for the next hour. But in fact, that's true. Only the thing that matters is the finished garments. But because that concept is, it's not new. I've been around for 25 years and it's been around long before me. But because it's new to many of you, you just can't kind of grasp that. So I'm going to give you a little logic. Here's why. And simply because our clothes contain our personality. They are not, if someone, and I've used this analogy many times, gave me 3 women and they all had a 36-inch bust. One was 20 years old, one was 40 years old, and one was 60 years old. I myself, being 60 years old, would not wear my blouses the same as a 20-year-old. I don't look like her, I don't think like her, and we're just different people, and that dictates how many inches of circumference or negative ease we even use in our clothing. So personality is included in our clothing, and when we measure the clothes we like, we're measuring our personality. We're putting our personality onto that chart. I can't even tell you how many, I can't even count. What size should I make? This is my measurements. Tell me what size I should make. I can't tell you that. I don't know you. I don't know your personality, your religion, your marital status. There's so many things that come into play as to what we like and how we wear our clothes. And that's logical, isn't it? It's so logical. How could we possibly measure our bust and know what size to make? And all those years we've been doing that, somebody else is telling us what we like. And for some of us, we say, that's good for me, just tell me what I need to make. But it doesn't mean we're going to like it in the end, so we can't do it that way. We have to take measurements as to what we like. I mean, I've got every excuse in the book. I don't have any stores. Everybody has a Walmart, a Target, or not everybody, maybe you don't. But find something close by that has clothing. It doesn't matter the quality. And simply try on enough. And what it will do is it will save you a lot of time in the process. Because you all know if you choose the wrong size, you make the wrong size, and put on the wrong size, that's a whole bunch of frustration that could have been avoided. So we want to keep this process as simple as possible. Finish garment measurements. Then you can start measuring all kinds of things, okay? So on the measurement chart, the numbers that you're supposed to put on that chart are the numbers of your clothes. Finish garment measurements. Don't put a single tape measure to your body. It will not matter. Having said that, I got a letter and an email, sorry, about on the back of pants. And this is confusing, and I have been torn with what to do with this, so you guys maybe can give me a suggestion. Okay, so this is the back of Camuto stretch woven pants, and I think the number is 3218. I should have looked that up. Sorry, you guys. It is 3218. Okay. So the back says, wrap the tape measure around your hip and sit down. Okay? But with a stretch woven, argument is, you don't need to do that. You just measure the stretch woven pant. Okay, the conflict of those two comes in where, depending on the size you make, your sitting down measurement can outstretch the fabric. So, our sitting measurement minus our standing measurement is the amount of ease. Okay, we know that. Sitting measurement minus the standing measurement is the amount of ease. If I make a stretch woven pant and I just make it equal to my hip may stretch more when I sit than the fabric will. So I can't actually do that. I know I've said that many times, just measure your hip and make that size. And I've also said, wrap the tape measure around your hip and sit. Those two are conflicting, okay? That is because it depends on what size you are making, where there are times where if you wrap that tape measure around and sit, and if you don't use that number, and if you just wrap the tape measure around and use that size for your hips, the fabric will not stretch to the amount of your hip sitting down. I hope everybody understands what I'm saying. Stretch woven doesn't mean stretch forever. Knit does, but stretch woven does not. Stretch woven has limits as to how much it will stretch. So it's possible that if you just measure your hip and make that size, you won't be able to sit down in your pants. So I appreciate you all pointing this out to me, because it is confusing, but it's why both methods need to be compared and observed when you're making pants. Because ease in the top part of our body is mobility. Ease in the bottom half of our body is our sitability. I know that's not a word, but the ability to sit down. And if our pants are too tight and they can't stretch to the amount that we do when we sit, then it doesn't avail us. So I hope that clarifies, because it's a very good point. It was very good raised, and the problem is we only have this little tiny paragraph on the back of the pattern, and it's hard to get that in a concise way. Okay. When you start, and we have regular sizing and W sizing, and we have on our website FAQs. And so I'm not going to go over the differences, because If you'll just read the FAQs, it goes through the differences. And the FAQs are in, go over to, what's that tab I want? What does that say?
Features.
Features, thank you. Go to features across all those tabs, go to features, and then under features, go to frequently asked questions. And under frequently asked questions, it's just good reading, you guys, if you have never been there before, because it does address sizing, W sizing. Okay, so I'm going to assume right now that you know what W sizing is. So keep in mind, and what I hear when I get all these emails is that you don't understand when to use regular and when to use W, and what if I'm a regular body and a W sleeve. The answer is called templates. And what templates do, these are armhole templates, is they bridge sizes together. There is no reason why you couldn't take any sleeve in the world and attach it to any body in the world. They don't have to be the same size. But what you have to have is a template that connects the armhole to the sleeve. And then you draw the template, the armhole, onto the bodice. Whatever bodice you're having, it just has 2 points, shoulder point, side seam, bam, make a connection, the sleeve will work. So it doesn't really matter what your body looks like, it doesn't matter what size it is, it doesn't matter what size you choose. Then you choose the sleeve that goes with it by measuring those sleeves that you wear that you like, and then you can bridge the two together with templates. Okay, that's why these are so critical and why they're important that you understand. And it makes it so easy. The goal is to keep this easy. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. It's just we have to have that information. Without that information, yes, it becomes complex. So pick the size out for your bust in ways that you are. That has the ease included. Pick the sleeve size out. And then just put them together with the armhole. Okay? Easy enough? All right, you guys, if you have questions, you gotta let me know. Okay. Yeah, okay. Love your top. Oh, thank you. Can we see the back? Sure. It's called color blocking. We're going to talk about color blocking here tonight because color blocking it was invented in the 40s. I think it was 1946. Yves Saint Laurent created color blocking. And it was really created to expression. It really became popular in the 60s because of hippies and the whole modern world. And there's several advantages to it. Number one, you look at, see all the weight I've lost? You only look half as thin because you've got two different colors. So it can be, if you do it correctly, it can be very slimming. It can be, you can use pieces of fabric where you have a yard of this and a yard of that and you can put it together. There's lots of fun advantages of it. So we're going to talk about it a little bit later. Okay, any other questions though? We're good for what we went over? Okay, so prep. When you are prepping, you need to know what you like. And you can understand where if you don't know what you like, you're just headed for disaster. There's no reason to start cutting out a pattern because you don't know what you like. You're just kind of wasting time to me. So just spend that time. You only have to do it once. It may take time. Be patient with that process. Get your chart out. Write all your numbers down. Your clothes are in the closet. The clothes, people have said to me, I don't have anything in my closet I like. You have to like it. You just have to put it on and feel the movement. How many inches do I need to feel comfortable? I don't care what color it is. I don't care any of that. And if you don't have anything in your closet that you feel comfortable in, I would put that on and write down so that you have, this is too small. This feels too big. And then start to understand the parameter and the differences between, that porridge that's too hot and that porridge that's too cold and that porridge that's just right. That's where we want to be. Okay? Okay, so let's move on now to fitting. We've got some fun fitting stuff. Okay, so we're going to look at some photos because you guys are nice enough to send me photos. And we're going to look at this first one, and it is a skirt. And if you look, I know it's kind of hard because it's a print skirt, but if you look at this, you see a circle. And the circle is right underneath the her waist. It's right underneath her waist. And you can see there's a bulge there. It's just not closing all the way. Okay, so, and it does, you have to kind of think about if there were a button there, would that help? It might help, but it still is not closing. So what's wrong is that her French curve is not the right shape on the side seam. So if I take a pattern, and I take a skirt pattern, hypothetically, and if I put this French curve on there, you can see that what I can do with that French curve is I can change the waist, I don't change the waist, I don't change the hip, but I change the distance in between. And it's important that we understand a French curve because the shape of our sides just don't ever change. I mean, that's not exactly true, but that's our DNA. Our shape is, the shape is our shape. If we gain weight, our shape typically stays the same. It just gets bigger around, but the shape itself stays the same. And the shape, when we're talking shape, we're talking the French curve. So if I say to you, do you know the numbers on your hip? Do you know what your numbers are? Where's your waist? And what you do, the French curve, the whole reason you have a French curve is that I can say, okay, I'm 19 at the waist and I'm 11 at the hip. There's my 8-inch difference and that's the shape. So then I can take this and go to anything. And you can take this off of your ready-to-wear. If you have a pair of pants or a skirt that you like, if you don't, that's fine. But if you do, I can lay this down at the waist and lay it down at the hips, and I can see what is the shape of the skirt. All right, but if you don't, you can make, a skirts are very easy to do. You just make it, you have that bulge right there, which you know you don't like, and so you fix the shape of that side, and then you make another one. Or else you make a skirt that has big seam allowances on it, so that you know if you've made, or if you've tried on, 25 skirts and none of them fit you, then know that your hip shape is not in the marketplace, which many of ours are not. So don't take that personal, just know that another 25 may not work either. So I've got to understand a French curve, I've got to understand how to lay it down on the side seam. It's only the side seams, and by the time I do the front side, the back side, the front side, the back side, because there's 2 seams, 4 things, I will get enough that skirt will come around to the front, and it will not gap like that. It's gapping because there's not enough circumference at that spot. I want to increase that spot, but I don't want to increase the waist above it, and I don't want to increase the hip below it. Okay, now, having said that, I want to show you the next picture, because she sent me a series of pictures, and there's another issue. And so this next picture is, I think, is that the side? Yeah. Okay, and what I want you to notice on that side picture, oh, it's been a while, you guys, it was last week I prepared this. Let me just take a quick look. What do I have? Oh, darts. Okay, that's what I was circling. Okay, she does not need darts. Okay, she doesn't need 2 darts. So don't automatically, because darts are in a pattern, use darts. Because darts are there to take up the difference between the hip and the waist. So, between the hip and the waist. She's taking out when she actually needs it. So, you can either curve the darts or take some out until the waist fits, and then use maybe 1 dart. But as straight as her body is, she probably doesn't need 2 darts in there, and she's got 2 darts on each side. So that's probably an overkill for the shape of her. Then I want to go to the last picture. I just wanted to point that out. Just because it's in the pattern, just because darts are there, doesn't mean you need them, and it doesn't mean you need them to be the size they are. This last picture I want you to see is that the side seam, I believe, is going backwards. I think is what I was trying to point out here. You guys, it's a bummer when I do things in advance and then I can't remember. The side seam is going backwards, and the side seam is going backwards because the front of the skirt is too low. And it's not a good look. It's not a slimming look. So if you pull that up, pull up the waist in the front until the side seam straightens out, and just take it all off. It can be exactly where you want it to be. It doesn't have to be straight. Your waist can be lower in the front and higher in the back. None of that matters. But what matters is that the skirt and your body align. That's what matters. And then the skirt will hang straight. You basically want the skirt to be as crooked as you are, and then it will look straight. Okay, so those few things I wanted to mention to make sure that you understood on a skirt. Skirts are very easy to sew, and they're easy to fit. You just have to understand those few things. And a French curve, darts, shaping, those things are all really important when it comes to a skirt because it's hanging from your waist. Okay, would it work to wrap your stretch fabric around your hips and sit to get the finished hip measurement? Well, yeah, but you don't need the fabric to get a sitting hip measurement. You don't need to involve the fabric. You know, there's really no reason to do that. So, just food for thought. Okay, it would work, but I don't know, I don't see the reason why you'd throw the fabric into that mix. Just get your sitting hip measurement. Then you could take your hip measurement and take it on the fabric and see if, let's say your hip measurement is 40 and your sitting is 45, hypothetically. Take 40 inches of the fabric and see if it will stretch to 45. If it is, great, you can use your standing hip measurement. If it doesn't, then that's not going to work for you. Okay? Perfect. Okay. All right, let's talk about, we got the 1, 2, 3. I like those pictures. Thanks for sending that skirt in, you guys. I won't say general. I promised everybody I wouldn't say name. Okay. Okay, this is, she's very, like, let's start with a W, based on her bicep measurement. So this is a case, I've kind of already answered this. This is a case where I can't tell you. You have to do the work, you have to pick it out, and I hate telling you that, but I can't help you with that. Okay, let's look at this next photo. This next photo is, she sent this to me, and let me read you the question so that you guys can be on page with me. She said, I'm pretty satisfied with my adjustments. This is Juliana's blouse 622, which is the same shoulder angle as 600, you know, they're all the blouses are the same shoulder angle. So I'm pretty satisfied with all my adjustments except one, the shoulder seam. I have rolled shoulders. I opened up the, okay, now hear this, just for 1 second. Do you notice that when, at the very beginning, she kind of, I'm going to say she demeans herself, she attacks herself. I want you guys to try to avoid that because there's, first off, I think it's just such a negative that we do that. And I know as people we do it overall, but kind of watch it and be careful because I think it's just kind of sad that I get these emails. Who said you had rolled shoulders? Like, where's the standard? There's no standard out there. So let's just say it's pattern versus body. I have rolled shoulders. I opened up the upper back about 1/2 inch, and that brought the shoulder seam where she wanted it to be. And then she tapered it to nothing at the neck. She did everything right. Can I raise the front shoulder seam more? So what she's saying is she's already done these changes, and she's getting closer, but it's still not right. Is there a limit to how much I can do? No. The fabric is supposed to match the body. Those two are supposed to come together, and you can clearly see that that looks pretty good, but she's not getting where she needs to be. So don't limit yourself just because you've done this change and this change. Look at it. If it doesn't match, do additional. And in this case, she could take up the front of that seam. Don't take it in equally at the seam because you'll see it'll probably go back again. In the front, take out some, and then taper to nothing, and then adjust the sleeve the same. Take out from the front of the sleeve, add to the back of the sleeve. And then the good news is you're going to use that sleeve and that armhole over and over and over because you're going to make a template of that armhole. Okay? So that's the good news. We want, especially once we get that correct, we want to repeat it from time to time to time. Remember that fit is fit and style, and fit is constant without all of our garments. All we're doing is changing style as we go to the different kinds. Okay. Okay, so again, this is a debate about which size to make. Why is W sizing, no, let me read that right. Why is regular much larger at the waist than W? It depends on where you're looking at it. In the tops it is, simply because if you're a W, you are generally heavier weight, and you need more curve in your clothing than what a thinner person needs. Okay? The more weight you have, it's more important to curve your clothing than to wear, I call it the pillowcase. if someone is a size 6, they can wear a pillowcase, they can look okay, because their heaviest is okay. But as you move into those larger sizes and you wear pillowcase, the sacrifice is greater. It's your choice, doesn't make a difference, but that's why I did the patterns that way, to help you look thinner. Okay? All right. I have a sway back problem. Okay, I want to show, I think I have this in the wrong order, Benjamin, I'm sorry. You got the sway back one? Okay. I want you to look at this picture. I gave it away already, you guys. But I want you to see that this is what a sway back looks like. This is what the not the body, I don't care about the body. This is what the fabric on a body that has a sway back issue looks like. And what you see is these diagonal lines, they come from the side and they point to center back. That's a sway back. So you can start to see that if I take a pinch above the waist, a horizontal pinch, and taper a dart, and say maybe a 1/2 inch, and taper to nothing at the side seam, then it'll completely lift that and it will fix that sway back. Okay? So again, you could say that sway backs are the fault of the pattern maker. They're my fault. Everybody should have a perfect back, and if it's not, I did something wrong with the pattern. That's the way I like to look at it. Okay, so, however, having said that, this particular item goes to the fact that what she did is she did fix the sway back because of the jacket, because of the wrinkles, okay? And now the back of the jacket hikes up higher than the front. That happens. So what I want her to do now, and I said this, you're going to do a horizontal dart that's going to go from the side. So the sway back, part of the reason you have a sway back is the curve of the waist of the pattern isn't matching the curve of the waist of the body. So once you get those two to match, and that can be just at the back, the sides could be okay, but because the back is the most curved part, that's what goes askew. So that's fixed, but now my body might be pitched forward, or there might be other things going on, and the jacket hangs longer in the front. I'm going to take a dart at the front, I'm going to taper to nothing at the side seam, and I'm going to even up the bottom of the jacket. The bottom of the jacket has to look straight. If it's not straight, it'll look terrible. Queen Elizabeth is the most perfect example, because you don't really notice how hunched her back is, because everything is straight at the bottom. But sometime I want you to pull up a picture of Queen Elizabeth. Notice how hunched her back is, how far her neck is forward now as she's aging, and start to realize how that pattern would look flat. Just kind of start to visualize what it would look flat. And her dressmaker is incredible, obviously. I mean, she's got these beautiful clothes. She's got these beautiful bound buttonholes. I notice every detail on those clothes, and they're spectacular. Her fitting and the sewing, the whole thing is spectacular. You know, she's the Queen of England, so that's what you get when you're the Queen of England. Okay, now, when you do that, and you do your sway back, and you do the adjustment in the front, if the jacket is too short, you could add length at the bottom, because the jacket is now straight. So go ahead and add length at the bottom, and add even all the way around, and then you can get the jacket to be the length you want. Getting the parts to be straight is important. The length is immaterial. The length is easy. All right, are we okay with that? Okay, I have to read this to you, you guys. I think this is so funny. I won't read all of it, but anyway, she said she's been a good follower since 2013. She's gained a lot of wealth of knowledge, and she really appreciates it. She said, I would like to be like, somebody who does fitting around my area. And that she says, why don't we have this thing where you teach people to fit, and then they can go out and teach other people. And I thought, it's a great idea. It's called Spiffy. Okay, we started about 9 years ago. So what I recognize, obviously, from that email, and it's, you guys, I get plenty of emails, and I don't just pick one. I realize that I've gotten several coming in, and they're all kind of clustering around the same issue. So I realize I'm not getting that information out very well, and I think Spiffy is probably an example of that. So Spiffy, and I can't stand the word, but it works. It's Silhouette Patterns Instructor Fitting for Yourself. And say that 10 times really fast, and you understand we just say Spiffy. So here's the deal. We do that once a year. We do it in August. if you're going to fit someone, whether it be yourself or whether you now decide to go fit all of North America, you have to have the same information. You have to have a clear understanding of length, circumference, and depth. So many people come to Spiffy, I'm sorry. They don't want to fit everybody, they just want to fit themselves. But it's not like I can say, okay, here's 5 things you need to know if you're going to fit yourself, but there's 20 things you need to know if you're going to fit other people, because that's just not true. You have to have the same amount of knowledge. So in Spiffy, what we do is we partner people up, and they drape each other, and all weekend we just switch around. It's like a 4-day thing, and we just switch everybody around, and everybody practices draping somebody else. I check everybody. And so you are learning to drape. And draping is something that we do not know how to do, and we've never been taught. And so when I showed you that picture of what does a sway back look like, a lot of you don't know what it looks like because you've never been trained. It's really, really easy, and it's really simple to fix, but because we've never had that training, we don't know how to go. So Spiffy is, if you decide then you want to go out and fit others, and there are those around the country who are doing it, you know what you're doing now. And if you don't, if you just want to do it for yourself, it's still the same workshop. There's only one that I hold per year, and that's training you, teaching you to fit, okay? In pattern 600, I have a 1-inch rounded back, In new pattern 922, is it based on the pattern 600? And would I make the same adjustment, or do I do a muslin first? So 922 is based on 600. And so I would, let's say you've only done 600 and you added that amount, and now you're going to do 922. 922 is, I'm trying to think, does it have a princess seam in the back? I can't remember. 922, I mean, I know it's a new pattern, I know. But I can't remember if it has a princess seam in the back or not. I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. So I would, because let's say you've only done those 2 patterns, I would make a muslin of 922 with the exact adjustments you've done to 600. So do the adjustments, make the muslin, and check yourself. Then you'll build your confidence as to what you're doing and the base and what changes you need to make. Okay? Okay. All right, this is number 5, photo number 5. Okay, so this is a smart girl, as I know her, and she's got this photo, and this is pattern number 6, I think it's 622, a Scottish blouse. Now when you're doing a Scottish blouse and you're fitting it, it's all one piece. And sometimes when you've got an alteration and it's all one piece, you know, the whole front's one piece, we know the answer, but we kind of blink out because it's all one piece. What do I do? So, for instance, if I were to fold this in half, like, look at the picture, and the reason I put the picture up there is because that alteration doesn't affect any of the styling. It doesn't affect the tie, it doesn't affect any of the styling. So if I folded that in half, just like it were a sweater set on the fold, or you know, any top on the fold, I could make that little dart, and what would it do? It would make center front crooked, and then I would straighten out center front. So you can do that exact thing when it's laid out to be one piece. You can either cut up center front, and then what will happen is when you take those little darts, center front will cross itself right at center front, and you can just add to the side seams. So just try to, whenever something's one piece, try to think of it as just being half. What alterations would I make? And then don't change them simply because it's laid out flat. It does throw us for a loop, and it kind of is confusing a little bit, but just kind of walk through the whole thing. Okay, how do we find a Spiffy trained in our area to US? Just email me. Just email me, tell me where you are, and ask me, and I'll tell you if we have one or not. Okay? I watch your channel because you're I don't sew, but you make me feel like I can. Of course you can sew. Anybody can sew, if you want to. I mean, I love to sew, and I'll show you why here in a little bit later on, because I'm going to show you some stuff I did. I just love to sew. It's just so creative and peaceful, and if I want to watch the horrible things that are going on in the news, I can, and if I don't, I won't. I watch a movie. So I can control my environment, and I'm always happy when I leave the sewing machine. Okay, so let me read you, but thanks for watching either way. I hate to shortcut this, but I'm going to shortcut this. She made up a jacket, and she said it was a waist, and she was a huge disappointment, and that she that she couldn't tell any difference between the B cup, the C cup, and the D cup, so she thought that was fraudulent on my part. So let me just explain to you. I'm actually going to go to pieces, that 625 piece for a minute. We're going to use this later, but this will work for my example here. If you'll pull that up. Okay, let me just explain to you a little bit that when you're doing cup sizing in a princess seam, which the garment that she was doing was a princess seam. So another really common misnomer that many of you of you have out there is that cup sizing changes circumference, and cup sizing does not. And I think we get that because somewhere with bra cup sizing, we automatically assume that B is smaller than C is smaller than D, and that's just not true. So cup sizing is based on, in bra sizing, the fullness of the bust versus the rib cage. It's the difference between those two. So D cup, it could be every circumference out there. As you know, there's a 32D, there's a 34D, there's a 36D. One is a band size and one is the cup size, the difference between the two. In blouse cup sizing or jacket cup sizing, whatever, it's the measurement of the longer part of the body versus the shoulder, the shorter part of the body, and that difference between that two is the cup sizing. We don't do that because, it's just easier to say do whatever your blouse cup sizing, bra cup sizing is. Just use the same. And if there's a problem, we can correct it. It's just an easier way to get there. So because these didn't change circumference, I messed up. Even though you have the wrong information and you're wrong, it's frustrating when you blame me. I don't mind if you blame me. The problem is that it actually is really good. And where the cup sizing is, if you look at this photo, is it's the lack of space between the shoulder seam and the bust. If you notice on those two pieces how they go out, that's where the dart is. That's where the cup sizing, because it will give, the wider that space is when it's sewn together, it will give more depth to the garment, depth. Now, cup sizing comes very easy to me, depth comes very easy to me, but as I teach and as I work with women, I recognize that if you go at L, C, and D, length, circumference, and depth is the nemesis for many of us, for most of us. I got a letter a little while ago, and the gal said she'd been following me for 10 years. And she just finally, one day, realized what I was saying. It took, who knows, our lives are busy, we got a lot of things going on, and she finally figured out that, and it all came flooding into her, and she got it. She wanted me to know I had gotten it. So at 10 years, do you understand that I will only affect 5 people in my entire lifetime? That's really depressing. So just recognize, when you have a problem, which is why I say to you, ask questions. Because I promise you, I'm not putting out patterns that don't work. I'm putting out patterns that will give you the best fit in the least amount of time. That's the only goal. And so if you're ready to trash them, which is what she'd done, telling me what a fraud I was, I'd like you to take a second chance, take a deep breath, walk away, come back, and sit down at a time when you can, focus on it again. Sometimes that never happens because our lives are just so busy. But I know that at the end, it's like tennis. Once you get to where you can actually volley, it's kind of fun. So we're trying to get you to that point. That's the goal. All right? Okay. Okay, but isn't she changing the arm sky on the 620 adjustment? No, because it tapers to nothing at the arm sky. Okay? Okay? What if you're bigger than a D? So there's many women bigger than a D, but keep in mind that when you are doing bra cup sizing and you're going from B to C to D, to E to F to G, the differences between D and E and F and G are much, much smaller than it is from B to C to D. So you'll have a gap I've kind of gone over those issues. I didn't have any issues. Use the D cup, and then you'll have issues, and you'll have gapping, and that gapping will give you an opportunity to make that dart larger, to clean it up. And when we've done fittings, I've showed you how to get rid of that dart. If you go back to any princess seam fitting that we've done, or any 600 fitting that we've done, I've showed you how to fix that if you're larger than a D. The signs to look for, and then how to fix it. Okay? How do we find someone who's spiffy trained in our area of the U.S.? I did answer it, but that's okay. Just email me, and if there's somebody in your area, I will tell you who. Just tell me where you live. Don't email me and say, is someone in my area? Tell me where you live, and then we can go from there. Okay, so that's all the fitting I have. And the others that I have is on sewing. How are we doing on time? Is regarding sewing. And then I want to show you some fun little things that I've done here. Some interesting things. Okay, so this first question has to do with backstitch. It says you only backstitch. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. Why do you never backstitch when sewing? Aren't you worried about it coming undone? And I said you only backstitch when there will not be another stitch that crosses over. So I'm not worried about it coming undone because something else is going to come along here shortly and take care of it. And it's 3/8 inch in, so even if a little bit comes undone, 3/8 will clean it up. So now I'm not worried about it. The only time you backstitch is when you're internal. If I'm doing a welt pocket, if I'm doing darts. The only thing with a dart, I don't care to backstitch because a lot of times it can leave just a heaviness on there. So I prefer to tie a knot. But you can if you want, it's your call. But that's why I don't backstitch. When you go to the shop and try on a jacket and measure, do you measure from one edge where it closes? Yes, flat. Flat. Fullest part of the, whatever you're measuring, measure it flat. Okay? All right, the next question is, have I used up all those photos? No, what did I? Why don't you pull that up, please? Okay, I'm going to talk about this now. Okay, leave this up because she sent me a screenshot of where I was talking about grain line. And I said a lot of times on a grain line, I'll pull the bottom away. If I'm wanting more room in my hips, I'll just pull the bottom away from the fold. Okay? And so the question was, what do I do with the grain line? And so the grain line always follows center front. The grain line always follows center front. The grain line always follows center front. Okay? The reason you have grain line in a top is for visual effects. A top is so short that if it's off grain, nothing would go wrong with the garment. Grain line is stability of the fabric. Weft and warp, it's stability. I want to show you something. I made this top, okay? And this top is pattern number 615. Kathy's blouse. The fabric numbers, let me get them here for you. The fabric numbers are, this cross grain is 5268, the plaid, 5268, and 5216 is the lace. Okay, so I'm going to show you something about bias, is the goal here. Now what I did with this is I have a blouse that's by, I have a blouse that I wear, it's by, I can't remember, but anyway, all it is it's long, but it has elastic at the bottom, so it creates a blouson. I love it. I wear it all the time, and it's so comfortable, it's so flattering. So this was long, but I just took it and opened up the bottom a little bit, so I pivoted the bottom off of center front, because it's cut on the fold, added a little bit for the fullness. And then the sleeve, I just left off all those bottom parts, and I just gathered it around the neck edge. But I want to show you something with bias here. This is what the pattern looks like. Okay, it goes like this. And, you know, this is a raglan sleeve. And so this is what it looks like. And I've cut two pieces here. So I want to show you these two pieces that I've cut. And one of them I cut on bias. And of course a plaid is very easy to cut on bias. And one of them I cut straight grain. Now what I want you to notice with the one that I cut on bias, and it's completely contrary to many things that we believe. We believe if we cut on bias, it will have more mobility. And that could not be farther from the truth, because what happens when I do bias, and I'm going to put the bias one toward me. Well, I'll turn it around here in a second because I've got the top lined up. I want you to see what happens to the bias. First off, it's longer. Can you see that? But it's narrower. So what's happening to this bias top is it's coming into the body and it's actually tighter than it would be if it was straight of grain. So it's really important that we understand that bias is good in some cases, but not really good in other cases. So if I were going to do a bias top like this, I would actually go up in size so that the bias top, because it would hang narrower, which this is doing, would be closer to the body and give me less mobility. Okay, I wanted to show you that to keep that in mind. There, you know, I mean, in PBS we did several talks about to designers who use bias on the show, and you know, admittedly, Robert specifically said when he uses bias, he actually has to make a muslin out of the real fabric. He can't, because every bias is different. Every fabric's weft and warp, and the space in between is different. Therefore, every bias is different. So just kind of keep that in mind, you guys. Is don't just flippantly say, I'll do bias. If you're going to do it, maybe add some circumference to the side. You could take it away, but be aware that it may come in, like this has, and be smaller than the regular one was. Okay, just FYI. How is the elastic applied at the waist? So all I did at the bottom here, this was another question I was asked. I actually didn't have it in my Q's and A's, but there's so many questions I just answer, and they kind of go in one ear and out the other. But she, you know, we saw that 2-inch wide elastic, and she said to me, every time I cut, I get little strings coming out, and that's because you're crossing the ribbing. The 2-inch wide elastic has all these little ribs, and you want to pick a rib and stay within the rib. If you cross the rib, you'll get that elastic poking out. It's made up of a whole bunch of little cords. So you want to go in between the ribs so that you don't cross the cords. And so I just cut it to be a little 1/4 inch wide elastic. And then I simply, you know, I made it smaller. I think if this was, I'm trying to remember how many inches this was at the bottom. I think it was like 40, and I made the elastic like 30, so that it would come up to my waist, is what I kind of wanted it to do, and blouse over. Or I could wear it down. I could wear it either way. But that gave me the ability to do it. And then I kind of mirrored the same thing with the sleeves, so that it would duplicate that effect, and it was gathers in through here. And we've talked a lot about masculine and feminine fabrics, and so I kind of wanted to point this out because this is a masculine fabric with a feminine fabric, and then we did a gather, and I really like it. So the only thing I would say, we're seeing a lot of masculine fabrics being into feminine patterns and vice versa. I would just, before you do it, be careful, because I've seen disasters being done out of it. Just, you know, think it through. Know what you're doing, and then, you know, they always say if you're going to run a red light, look around first and know that you're running it. Okay. All right, so I've got a couple more. These are about sewing now. Let's see. Oh, she's making a dress. She's going to her granddaughter's wedding. Okay, and she wants to know how she determines the correct length of a one-piece dress. It's a one-piece dress. This is in our book, Dress to Kill Gently. And she's giving me all her numbers of her height and this. You don't need all that, okay? What you need to know is the shorter the dress, the taller you look. The shorter the dress, the taller you look. So what you do with that, if you're the grandmother at the wedding, you take into account the people. See, it's personality again. I could tell you the shorter the dress, the taller you look, but you could say, well, that's too bad. I'm not going to do that. If you can wear it above your knee, wear it above your knee. If you can't do that, go to the middle of your knee. If you can't do that, go to below. But the shorter the dress, the better, the taller you look. Okay, that's the rule. And the smaller the hem, the taller you look. So that was my advice. And you can do what you want from there. Which armhole sleeve combo should be used with stretch woven? Woven or knit? The answer is, you guys can tell her, woven. Stretch woven typically does not have enough stretch to mirror a knit. just FYI. Okay, I recently purchased a black, white, and red loosely woven for you, which is actually this right here. I'm planning to make a cape with it. What fusible should I use? I only use one fusible, and that's a fusible I sell. And I fused the whole inside of this jacket. Why? Because it was so loosely woven that honestly when I'd pick a piece up and move it to the sewing machine, it would lose 5 threads. And if I moved it 3 more times, I wasn't going to have a pattern left. So it was so loosely woven, I wanted to stabilize it. So fusible interfacing is used to stabilize, it's used to retard wrinkling, and it's used to make something sheer, non-sheer. Okay? And it's fabulous. And if in doubt, I've always said, use fusible. I think there's so many people who don't understand it, they don't understand its value, and it's amazing. And finally, my fusible guy, who I've been buying fusible for all these years, he's been in fusible interfacings for 40 years. He is going to be on our upcoming series, which I'm thrilled about. Okay. All right, so that takes care of that one. Okay, then somebody else asked me about the iron, and I wanted to address it. I know I've answered it before, but I thought if I do it on Q's and A's, maybe you guys will understand this. So what I did is I kind of searched for it. And so keep in mind that irons, the problem with irons, I mean, if you buy the real expensive ones, they're about $1,000. And they're also very big, and they're hard to travel, and they're hard to move with. I honestly used to take this iron to workshops with me. Everywhere I went, I'd take this thing with me because it was so good, and I couldn't press with a normal, like, hotel iron. It was, like, terrible. That's pretty sad when you travel with an iron. I just realized what I said. But I did. Okay, so this iron, the reason it's so good is it's lightweight. I don't sell them. It doesn't have any water in the iron, that means if it doesn't have any water in the iron can't leak. And that's one of the worst things about cheap irons is they leak. So I would buy the best iron you can afford. This one, Bed Bath & Beyond has it, $184. I've had that iron for at least, I would say 3 or 4 years. They don't last forever. They do die, and they die, quickly. But it's a Rowenta VR 8324. I don't do business with Rowenta. I have no affiliation with Rowenta. I just happen to love their irons. Okay? So I wanted to let you know that one because I think it's that good of an iron. The amount of steam it puts out is terrific, and of course it puts steam out at any angle. So if I'm putting something on a mannequin and trying to see if it works right, I can steam it right on the mannequin. I've also burned my hands many, many times with the steam, where I was steaming something and it just all of a sudden just burned the side of my fingers. But yeah, I think all of us who sew, we have these asbestos fingers. Okay. Does your blouse you're wearing have elastic on the sleeve or the wrist? So I wanted to, the reason I've done something with this blouse. Let me answer that question here. Okay, so both of those questions about what I'm wearing, let me answer those. So that pattern, the pattern that I have on, I told you I'd talk about color blocking, is 650, the wrap blouse. And the reason I did it in color blocking is because I had gotten some questions about color blocking and what did I think of it and was it still popular? There's no question it's still popular. If you go in and search for color blocking spring 2022, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. So don't think because it's been out there it's not popular. It is. And again, it's a great way to utilize. And we have these coordinating fabrics. These two fabrics are 5213 and 5214. 5213, I used 2 yards of each one because you need the front and you need the sleeve. So you need 2 yards of each one. I did 650. I did it without the collar. I just took away the collar. The front facing you do twice. Very easy to do. And then what I wanted to show you with the sleeves, and I don't know if you guys can see, but when I put my arms down, this one is 5 inches above the bottom of the sleeve. And this one I lengthened, and it's 7 inches. And what I want you to see is how poor this one looks and how good this one looks. This one's so much more in proportion with the sleeve. This one is like so long it looks ridiculous. So what I wanted to bring out is that proportions are really important. I know you know that. We've done webcast on proportions. Go back and kind of read those. That one question about how long should my dress be? That's a proportion question. There's a lot in the book, My Very Best Dressed Me, or Dress to Kill Gently, I think we renamed it. That's all in there. Okay, so that's on proportion. How do you pack that in a suitcase? I put it on my carry-on because I never trusted I've always felt that the guys, if I checked it, I would lose it. So I always put it in my carry-on. And I was pretty good at packing a couple days worth of clothes, and my iron would all go in my carry-on. It's very doable. Just don't put the water in because the water sets off the detector. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you was a blouse. I don't think we showed it. I think it's I wanted to show, I got a question, I know. It was about these panels we've had, and I think she had a lot of frustration about what do I do with them. And so I did a couple ideas on what to do with them, and I just wanted to show them to you. This one right here, and I'll kind of go through my thinking, is pattern number 625. So I want you to see the evolution of this. I know we're at time, and I'll kind of try to wrap up quickly because I know time's important. So this is pattern number 625. 625 is Caitlin's blouse. 625 is a princess seam, but I didn't want a princess seam, but I wanted fit. But because I didn't want a princess seam because this is all one panel. And the fabric is 5291. And I used 2 sections to make this. So what I did is, this is a Rachel Comey fabric. It's 100% cotton knit. It's beautiful fabric. So I have all these ideas merging that I was trying to do. So if you've noticed lately, I've put out some patterns that require a woven, but they can slip over the head. And the whole goal in that is I don't have to do buttonholes and buttons. It's just ease and comfort and quickness, to be honest, ease. And so that was my goal in this. And the other thing I wanted to show you in doing this was that I used a blouse and I used a knit. So that means I used my templates, because what I did here is I used my knit armhole and my knit sleeve with my woven body. So I didn't want negative ease in this. I wanted it to hang straight. I wanted it to, just be really lovely and really pretty. And that's one panel. You can see on that fabric, that's one panel. So if you pull up that picture, Benjamin, I apologize, that one that we had before. No, not that one. No, the one that I had the circle right there. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so this one, when you put a princess seam together, if you take the front and the side and overlap it, you can overlap the waist, the seam allowance of the waist, where they separate, and then the top will still be open. You'll still have a dart there. So that's what I did here. There's actually a dart right here. You don't see it because it's black, but there's a dart right there, and in the back there's a dart right here also. But it stops. It's just like a dart, except it's a princess dart that I put the bottom pieces together and left the top open, because your top is going to be a bigger dart than what your waist is. I could always come back and put a little dart in here if I wanted to bring it in a little bit. But I wanted you to be aware that just because it's a princess seam, I don't have to always cut it in all those pieces. I can cut it as one, and I even put the center front on a fold, even though this is a button up the front. And I made a V-neck out of it and put a little fold-over elastic in there. And so therefore I got this beautiful floral across the front. And I got all the, I didn't have to cut up the print. So that was the goal, to not cut up the print. What did I want to do with it? And that was just one option. There's many options, but that's the one I wanted to show you. Then the other one I wanted to show you was, go back to that picture that you had pulled up, the blouse that was floral. Yeah, not that one. Sorry, that one. Okay, so I wanted you to see how fun it is to play with borders. And so I did this. I played with borders. And this is a Rachel Comey also. And in the particular case of this Rachel Comey, I'm going to kind of show you the back, because this is I can show you this fabric. This is the way the fabric comes. And this is fabric 5292. And this is pattern number 600. So remember, a lot of times when you're doing a complex fabric, you want a simple pattern. And so a 600, you have your back, your front, your front facing, your collar, and your sleeve. You've got 5 pieces. So, in this particular case, I did the front in the middle of the panel. So I just put the front right there in the middle of that panel and used all those pretty, it's violets, it's just really beautiful. It's got a black. The black is actually the border. So I came over here to the border and used the black for the facing. You can see the line. I put the line right in the middle of the collar. It's just fun. It's fun to play with. It's artistic. It's just fun to do. And so that what I did is, and I thought about even doing this sleeveless because you can make, this is, Rachel Comey made this as a scarf. And you could make this into a little cape and you could always wear it kind of together, you know, which would be really fun to do. But anyway, so I just wanted you to see, there's, when you get ideas, when you look at border prints, because I'm kind of in New York, I get known as I'll buy any border print, because my fabric guys all know that I love border prints, because they give you a chance and an opportunity to just really reach into the weird, you know, the wonderful side of design, kind of, but they're not hard. You can see that all I did was use the pieces and use a black facing, and you know, it's just pretty simple, but they're fun. They're really fun. So I wanted to kind of push you to that side so that you could have a little bit of fun. You've already fitted the blouse. You've made 100 blouses. Now get a border print and, you know, create that completely different space. Okay, so there was a picture you pulled up that I forgot. Okay, this one, I wanted you to, this was a fascinating picture to me. The reason I put this in here is this is a sheath dress, basically the sheath dress. This is our pattern of the month. But when we talk about grain, I want you to realize that with grain, the only thing that needs to be on grain is anything that's 20 inches long. And the reason is after 20 inches, the grain will start to lose stability. If it's not on grain, the garment will start to lose stability. So here what they did, and I think it's acris, but I thought that was so beautiful how they took that dress and turned it, but yet you could see they couldn't do the whole thing because it wouldn't be stable. They had to come in with something else and do the bottom portion. And so it's just fun to mix up. When you look at garments, I think for me, one thing, the more you know about patterns and what you can do and what you can't do, you realize how you can sneak by with doing something that's just so profoundly beautiful, and why that's expensive. It breaks the rules, and you know, $900 for a little dress like that, we could all do that. Hell, I had that fabric that was really similar. We can mix it with some black and you're good to go for about, at most, $50 in fabric. So the goal is to really learn the rules, know the rules, and then bend the rules. Okay, that's the goal here. Okay, all right, so again, we're past time a little bit. We started a little bit like, okay, can I answer any questions for you? I really appreciate your questions. We are doing our PBS series on your questions are answers. We've got an incredible amount of information. I'm just so excited for the series. We have room for more. I really want this series to be a real clarification of issues and topics and all those kind of things. So if you have questions, let me know. Put Series 11 in the title. I think Fit to Stitch Series 11. I think I asked you in the subject. And we'll bring them all in and sort through them, and we'll answer your questions. But other than that, you guys, are we good? Okay. For all of you that are east of us, watch out for those tornadoes. They're moving east. We got rid of them, but they're headed. They did a lot of damage. So be careful. And you know, our weather guy always says here, find your safe space. Mine's my sewing room, physically, emotionally, and mentally. So anyway, all right. From all of us here, happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns, you all. Bye.